Today on race day, easy on the gas and the brakes, the Winston Cup gang takes on the tight turns of Martinsville, and the other Wallace will lead him to green. The NASCAR truck drivers will sweat out 150 miles today at Phoenix. Not much of a surprise on the lead row. And the California kid rides a hot wind through the Trans Am field. Buckle in, we're cross country on race day, Sunday, April 20th, 1997. And welcome live to Phoenix, where the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series will be in the spotlight a little later this afternoon, 4 o'clock Eastern, live here on TNN Motorsports. I'm Rick Benjamin from Phoenix today on race day, and it's good to have you with us. We'll preview the Craftsman Trucks event in a couple of moments, but we begin our coverage with the Winston Cup stars getting set to race 2,500 miles east of here on one of the toughest tracks anywhere, the flat half mile at Martinsville Speedway in Virginia. And just like last week at Bristol, it'll be a full field, too full if you ask some of the Winston Cup competitors. Scott Przwanski has our preview.
The first half of the short track season comes to a close this weekend, and for many teams, that is a welcome sight. Many drivers complained last weekend in Bristol there were too many cars on the track and not enough room to race. Many of those same drivers believe it will be the same frustrating situation Sunday afternoon.
I don't know what you can do, you know. You have to race. You just, it's kind of like playing Russian roulette, you know, especially at Bristol. This racetrack won't be as bad as Bristol as far as that goes, because usually there's a little bit more time to respond here than there is in Bristol, but it's still going to be entirely too many race cars on the racetrack at one time.
The alternative isn't very good either, because it sends people home, and we don't need that. We need these sponsors and these drivers to be in the races. So, you know, you have to understand going into this thing, there's going to be a lot of traffic, and, you know, it's not always going to work to your advantage, but, you know, someday we all might be in that position that we're glad it's a big field.
If there's someone who can get through the traffic, it's Rusty Wallace. Wallace seems to always have the right setup on the short tracks, especially at Martinsville, where today he goes for his 5th straight win in the spring race.
It's always the plan to win every race you go out to, but to keep that string going like that and be that consistent is something. So I'm proud of it. I'm proud for the team to be able to help me do that. And this is 180 points. It's a fun track for me. When I get behind, I'm always seem like I can dig myself out on a short track.
This track is very demanding on a race car, so patience is key. In Martinsville, it's not so much who has the fastest car, but who's around with the chance to win in the end. In Martinsville, reporting for Race Day, I'm Scott Przwanski.
All right, thanks, Scott. Now, here's how the first 10 will line up today at Martinsville for the Goodies 500. Wallace and Nemechek, that lead row. And look at this, Bill Elliott and Kyle Petty also in the top 10. Hut Strickland with a nice 6th. The race starts at 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll have more from the Winston Cup Series in a few moments. Now, here in Phoenix, the second annual Desert Star Classic, brought to you by Chevy Trucks. It'll take the green, the Craftsman Truck Series, here at 4 o'clock Eastern today, and you'll see it live on TNN Motorsports. Eli Gold here to call the action. Welcome to Race Day. Now, Jack Sprague dominated here at Phoenix 1 year ago, won both races. Is he the favorite here today?
Well, he's certainly the favorite. He's starting on the push pole this afternoon, and he does so very well on these flat 1 mile racetracks. That's been his domain for years. But remember this, too. There are guys in the field like Mike Bliss and Kenny Irwin who have many, many victories on this track, albeit not in a NASCAR Craftsman truck, but they know this facility as well as anybody.
Well, Sprague certainly will be one of the contenders. Not much of a surprise alongside. We talked to the 2 fast qualifiers earlier.
This place really resembles Concord Motor Speedway, but it's twice as big. 1 and 2 is the same. It's got a dog leg. 3 and 4, you drive basically the same. So that's probably why I like this place so much and haven't had any problem with it.
I've ran a lot of different classes, and I really enjoy running here. It's tougher than it looks. There's 2 corners here, 4 corners, and they're all different, and you got to get a happy medium between the both of them. It's really neat.
So it'll be Sprague and Bliss on the lead row. The race has been cut back a little to 150 miles from 186. Will that make it more competitive, do you think?
I think it's going to make it more interesting for one simple reason. For those of you who know the format of a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series event, you go to the halfway point, then you take on fuel and tires. The Chevy trucks say they can go 75 or 76 miles to get to that halfway break, but the Fords and the Dodge trucks are not quite so sure, and then do you start giving up track position to be sure you can go to halfway? So that's going to be one of the questions here today.
All right, we'll look forward to your call of the race. 4 o'clock Eastern. Thanks, Eli Gold. We'll see you a little bit later on. Now, here's how the first 10 qualifiers will line up today for the Chevy Trucks Desert Star Classic. Sprague and Bliss on the lead row. How about Curtis Markham 3rd? Kenny Irwin and Joe Ruttman. And how about Jerry Glanville, believe it or not, and Boris Said, qualifying 9th and 10th this afternoon. Trans Am star Dorsey Schrader will join Eli in the booth for our coverage of the Chevy Trucks Desert Star Classic on TNN Motorsports Live later this afternoon. Well, back east, our live motorsports twin bill today kicks off with the ASA Stock Cars, their second event of the brand new season. The ASA going down to Georgia, Peach State Speedway in Jefferson for the first time in 10 years. TNN's Ralph Shaheen is there to call the action for us. Ralph, what do you think? First time in 10 years at this racetrack.
Rick, it was 1985 that the American Speed Association last visited Peach State Speedway. And on that weekend, Alan Kulwicki, who would later become a Winston Cup champion, flipped his car in practice on Friday, went 2 laps down early in the race on Sunday, and made up for it all by winning the race. Pretty exciting day for Alan Kulwicki and the fans in the grandstands, and pretty exciting here yesterday for qualifying. Bloomington, Minnesota's Ted Smokestad had a career-best qualifying effort, lapping the Georgia half mile in 18.005 to put the Aspen Electric Pontiac third on the grid. 1996 Pat Shower Rookie of the Year Kevin Sawinski won the pole at the last race at Kenly, North Carolina. Coleman Racing Products Pontiac posted an 18.001 to take second for today. Before qualifying began, Gary St. Amant told me, "I don't think I stand a chance at the pole." Boy, was he ever wrong. A 17.9 was the Wins West Michigan Chevy dealer Chevy on the pole for today's race. Gary joins me now. And Gary, do you think you stand a chance at winning the event?
Well, Ralph, you know, this racetrack, it's kind of tough to get around here. You know, 300 laps is going to be a long race. This place has got to grease up pretty good, but, you know, this being the Wins 300 here, you know, hopefully we can put the Wins West Michigan Chevy Dealers Lane Automotive in Victory Lane.
Well, what's it going to take to win this thing? What's going to be the key?
I think consistency is going to be a lot, Ralph. You know, like I said, the track greases up real good. A good handling race car is what it's going to take to win the race today.
Well, it's been a long time since they've been here. Some of the guys were able to come down earlier in the wintertime and test here, but it's going to be exciting. We'll kick it all off about 1 o'clock today, Rick, live right here on TNN.
All right, thanks a lot, Ralph. Look forward to your coverage of the Wins 300. New indications this week that Big League Motorsports is going to be forced to do without some major sports marketing money from the big tobacco companies, probably in the very near future, maybe by 1998. The Wall Street Journal reporting this week that representatives of RJR Nabisco and the Philip Morris Company are talking to several state governments about creating a $300 billion pool that would settle health insurance claims made by smokers in exchange for immunity from lawsuits. Now, reportedly, that deal would include voluntary, sharp reductions in the kind of marketing and advertising that tobacco companies now do, which would include billboards and title sponsorships. And that, of course, could be big changes for Big League Motorsports. NASCAR officials so far haven't had any official comment, but Walt Zarnicki of Penske Corporation sees the change, if it happens, as part of a trend. Walt tells me that a trend is bringing more non-traditional sponsors into the sport all the time. He expects that trend to continue. We will certainly keep you posted. And there's more to come on Race Day, live from Phoenix today. A Busch Grand National rookie puts it in Victory Lane last night in Nashville. We'll have highlights from the Opryland 320. While here in the desert, a familiar face with a different do dominates the Trans Am battle. We're back live in Phoenix right after this.
Race Day is brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. And by Kawasaki All-Terrain Vehicles. Call 1-800-661-RIDE for the dealer nearest you.
Back with more of Race Day live on the road today from Phoenix International Raceway. Now, the Craftsman trucks will take center stage here in just a couple of hours live on TNN. But last night on TNN, the Busch Grand National stars battled it out under the lights on the historic half mile at Nashville Speedway, USA. Mike Hogwood was at the Bell South Mobility Opryland 320 for us, and he's back in our Charlotte studios with the story. And Mike, a much-needed win for a team that's really been struggling for quite a while.
You're exactly right there, Rick. And you know the Nashville Speedway is a classic short-track bull ring. You might expect lots of bumping and banging, and you'd be right.
Mike McLaughlin was on the pole and leads the 42-car field to the green flag. But it was Kevin LePage in car 88 who was showing the way early. The trouble started early as Johnny Chapman and Johnny Rumley get together. It was the first of 14 caution flags on the night. Check out the great move by Dick Trickle to avoid the wreck. Dale Earnhardt Jr. hoped for a better result. He's running a limited schedule on the BGN Series, but an oil leak forced him out early. Jeff Green in the number 8 took the lead and held his advantage through most of the early going. Dick Trickle missed the earlier wreck, but couldn't avoid this incident involving Mark Green and Chapman. On lap 180, Steve Park in car 3 takes the lead for the first time, passing Jeff Green.
Another strong contender late was Tennessee native Jeff Purvis in car 28. Park passed Purvis and took the lead for good with 70 laps to go. Park held on and rolled to his first Busch Grand National win, and it was the first win for Dale Earnhardt's Busch team since the Intimidator drove to victory in 1994 at Daytona. Jeff Green finished second, just over 2 seconds behind Park. Series points leader Randy LaJoie was sixth. Buckshot Jones continues his strong season, rounding out the top 10. LaJoie maintains his points lead. Todd Bodine's top 5 finish keeps him second in the standings. Well, after 2 weeks on the short tracks, the Busch Series now heads to the fastest speedway they'll run on year in Talladega. It's time for us to head back to Rick Benjamin out in Phoenix. Rick, you were calling on TNN that Trans Am race yesterday. I really think the rest of the field has a way to go to catch up with one driver.
Yeah, they sure do, Mike. That was absolutely the case. The Trans Am stars battling a little before the Busch Grand National Bash under the lights. The Trans Am, of course, on the 1.5-mile road circuit that's inside the oval here at Phoenix International Raceway. The winner is no rookie, but he did have to work a little bit harder than you might expect for his trophy. No doubt that Tommy Kendall is the series' dominant force. After his last to first victory at St. Petersburg, TK qualified fastest again Friday at Phoenix through the #1 starting spot and kept the pack at bay from the drop of the green. Gloy stablemates Brian Simo, who started second, and Dorsey Schrader fell in behind with the third Gloy car from Mike Borkowski riding fourth. All eyes on Paul Gentilozzi early. The Riso Chevrolet pilot qualified fifth. Had to start 11th, though, after a late engine change. But Gentilozzi was flying early, catching the lead pack quickly. Bad luck would ruin the Michigander's day. Electrical troubles torpedoing him not once, but twice. Chevy pilots Greg Pickett and Bill Saunders had their troubles, too. After starting side by side in row 4, Pickett spun off the track on the first lap. Later, after charging up through the field, he hit his teammate in turn 9 as they were both trying to get by the Pontiac of Leighton Reese. Up front, Kendall had his lead cut to less than a second several times, but Simo couldn't get alongside. Meantime, defending Race King Schrader was saving his tires on this very hot day and got his chance with just a few laps to go after a caution. But on the restart, it was clear nobody had anything for the two-time defending series champion. Kendall pulling away for his second straight victory. Rookie Mike Lewis, in just his 6th career Trans Am start, after a best-ever 5th in qualifying, blew by Mike Borkowski on the final lap to finish 4th. Kendall leading flag to flag, solidifying his series point lead after 2 events in the Trans Am Championship. And Tommy was jubilant in victory lane.
Things were going so well throughout the weekend with the pole and so forth that I thought it was going to turn against us. But someone upstairs was shining on us. Got to thank him for that. You know, I'm not going to do a thing. You know, everyone says, what's with the blonde hair? Whatever it is, I'm not changing a thing about how we do it because things are clicking for us right now. You know, the team, the continuity that we've had, these guys, same cars last year, same crew, and we're able to kind of fine-tune it, and it's starting to show.
Well, the Trans Am stars get a little more than a month off. Next up, Lime Rock Park, Memorial Day Monday. When we continue, more from Martinsville in the Goodies 500 for the Winston Cup stars. We'll have the latest from the Winston Cup Series, the Spring Short Track Tour winding down today. And while the Craftsman trucks prepare to battle here later, the series sights are also on some new and very fast venues, and some changes are ahead. The story next. Back live in Phoenix on race day. Good to have you with us today. And that time now for our Mopar Performance Update. Jeff Gordon will be going for 2 straight short track victories this afternoon when they drop the green for 500 tough laps at Martinsville Speedway. And it'll be a long time before a lot of folks forget how Jeff won last week's short track bash at Bristol when he used the nose of his DuPont Chevrolet to move Rusty Wallace out of the groove to take his 3rd victory of the young season and move closer to point leader Dale Jarrett in the standings. Point battle very close early in the year. Today, the season moving into its final leg of the short track spring tour. Now, after 7 races, here's how things stand. Labonte behind by 90. Jeff has already won once at Martinsville in his young career. He qualified 4th today, and Gordon says that's right where you want to be at a place like Martinsville.
Qualifying so much more important, I think, now than it's ever been. It's important not only to start towards the front, but to get a good pit. You cannot win races from the back straightaway these days. It's almost impossible to do. I think that, you know, you can change the way your race is the outcome of your race just by how you qualify.
Gordon will start alongside another driver who's been in the news this week, Jeff Bodine, qualifying 3rd at Martinsville, just days after he was assessed with a $10,000 fine from NASCAR for actions detrimental to the sport. You'll recall how Bodine and Jimmy Spencer tangled twice last Sunday, and afterwards, Jeff used some very strong language on live television to describe the incident. Elsewhere, some good news this week. After a couple of weeks of rehabilitation, Ricky Craven returns to the wheel of the Budweiser Chevrolet today at Martinsville. Ricky taking a provisional to make the show. After sitting out the Texas and Bristol events, he suffered that broken shoulder blade in practice in a crash at Texas 3 weeks ago. We'll see how he makes out when they drop the green at Martinsville coming up in a couple of moments. No final word yet on who will end up with controlling interest in North Carolina Motor Speedway down in Rockingham, but Bruton Smith Speedway Motorsports Company certainly isn't giving up their effort. Speedway this week raising their merger offer for the outstanding stock in the Rock. Speedway now willing to pay 39% more than their first bid, $32 a share cash or an equal amount in Speedway stock. Speedway says that's 72% more than the offer made by Penske Motorsports for stock in the track. As we told you last week, a 4-person board of directors committee is reviewing the two offers. Penske maintains they have a definitive deal to buy Mrs. Carrie DeWitt's 65% of Rockingham. Most analysts think the Speedway's 2 Winston Cup dates are the prize at stake here, but all parties involved say there's no plan to move any races from Rockingham. We will certainly keep you up to date. Well, originally, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series ran primarily on short tracks, but this year the truckers head to Texas and to the new California Speedway. Test speeds at Texas have been well over 170 miles an hour. That has NASCAR officials making some changes in the interest of safety. With that and more news from the Craftsman Truck Series, here's Race Day's Matt Yoakum.
Rick, the next time the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series hits a speedway of 1 mile in length or longer will be a stop in June at the new Texas Motor Speedway. Earlier this week, Ken Irwin Jr. and a few other teams stopped off for a test. Irwin lapped the place at over 177 miles per hour, which would have put him about 20 on the Busch grid for the Texas race. That was followed by NASCAR handing down a 3-part rules change, first of which will be a rear roof flap mounted in the right rear corner of the cab of 8 by 24 inches. That will be mandatory on all tracks of 1 mile in length or longer. The second part, adding cowl flaps, just like the NASCAR Winston Cup and Busch Series run, and right behind the cab, from the rear roll bar on the left side to the cab will be enclosed, so in case the truck gets sideways, it'll help scrub off speed.
The big thing is we just want to make sure that going to some of these bigger racetracks, that everybody has a comfort level. And, you know, I think it's pretty well known with Winston Cup and with Busch. Done an excellent job of the flaps on the cars. You know, that's been noticeable by everyone. We just think that it's a natural extension for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
One other announcement this weekend, Richard Petty announced that he will expand to a 2-truck operation beginning with Texas. The driver will be Kenny Bouchard. They'll campaign for 5 races in 1997, and if all goes well and a sponsor is found, you could see them run the entire schedule in 1998. Rick?
All right, thanks, Matt. There is more to come on Race Day live from Phoenix. The second green of the year about to fall over the ASA Stars of Georgia. Even though it's early, already some changes on some key teams. We'll tell you which drivers are packing up their helmet bags when we continue.
Promotional fee and consideration paid by Gladiator and Universal Luxury Vans, the official van of tracks, teams, and drivers throughout the NASCAR world. Call 1-800-445-2825 for a dealer near you. Race fans, kick off the 1997 NASCAR season with this exclusive offer, an authentic TNN Motorsports NASCAR Thunder mini helmet made by Simpson Race Products. Call today or visit your local NASCAR Thunder store to purchase this one-of-a-kind limited edition collectible. Call 1-800-338-6016.
Back live in Phoenix on Race Day, where later this afternoon you'll see the NASCAR Craftsman trucks in action in the Desert Star Classic. In just half an hour, though, ASA's live, the TNN Live Motorsports doubleheader will open up with the ASA stock cars. TNN's Dave Burns standing by in Jefferson for us. Just the second race of the season in ASA. And Dave, already some drivers are changing seats. What's going on?
Rick, one thing ASA fans have been waiting for a long time is for the arrival full-time of a young guy named Matt Kenseth. Well, he came 2 weeks ago to Kenley, and now he's gone. He's running a Busch Series ride for a guy named Robbie Reiser, and he finished 11th at Nashville last night after qualifying 3rd. Good job for him. But what is Jerry Gunderman and the All-Star Racing crew to do with the number 8 car? How about this? Mike Garvey takes over this week, and he's going to be here full-time in 1997. Now, Mike, how did you get the call for this ride?
Well, Dave, we just came back from a Hooters race down in Orange County, North Carolina, and in fact, myself and Matt wrecked together. We hit some oil, and we both wrecked. We was running 2nd and 3rd, and came back to the shop kind of down, going, you know, what are we going to do next? Things are pretty tough right now, and Jerry gives me a call Monday morning, says, how'd you like to drive the car? And it took me about two seconds to say, you bet I will. This team's got a long winning tradition, long history of good drivers and good equipment, and I was tickled to death to get the call.
Yeah, and Rick, and don't think no one's taken notice of that. A lot of these guys know that Jerry Gunderman and the All-Star team started and helped careers like Ted Musgrave, Mark Martin. Mike Garvey has a pretty good shot at the championship now that he's riding with Jerry Gunderman and the All-Star Racing team.
All right, thanks, Dave. We'll see how it plays out. The Wins 300 live at 1 Eastern today on TNN Motorsports. Now, tonight on Race Day, all the highlights from Martinsville, the ASA, the Outlaws, and, of course, the truck event, plus your television lineup for racing today. We'll be right back. And finally, motorsports is certainly known for giveaways and promotions, but how about this mother of all contests? Valvoline is going to give away a Mark Martin Roush Racing Thunderbird, not a show car, one he actually ran last season. We'll help kick things off. Mark gave me a 170-mile-an-hour white-knuckle ride around the Charlotte Motor Speedway high banks this week, and later we clocked a few laps behind the wheel of a petty driving school car. A wild ride, a blinding 125 miles an hour. Dave Burns wouldn't get out of my way. What can I say? As for the car giveaway, you'll find the details starting in May. Maybe $100,000 worth of race car in your driveway this fall. One other story. Mark Kinzer didn't qualify for the Craftsman Truck Series race. Cousin Kelly ran his Outlaw car last night at West Plains in Missouri. He won the feature, his first Outlaw win. We'll have highlights for you tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern on Race Day. We'll see you later.
Race Day is brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. Drivers, race teams, and race fans, the 1997 Simpson Race Products Catalog is now available, featuring all the new products and services for 97, plus Simpson's complete line of racer and fan gear. To get your copy, call 1-800-71-RACIN and join Team Simpson today. Go behind the scenes with Ernie Irvan in the exclusive video documenting his triumphant return to racing. Order Miracles Happen, the Ernie Irvan comeback. Call 1-800-385-3087. Radio communications are provided by Racing Radios. For all your business and racing communications needs, as well as scanners and frequency lists, call on Racing Radios at 1-800-669-1522.